one louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Gareth from Books, Songs and Other Magic. I'm at a different part of the room at the minute, front room. I'm normally in the bedroom with my books, but downstairs, I sometimes do these ones downstairs over there, but I'm here because then you can have Kate behind, because this is a music themed video. I'm still a bit poorly. The way that this is going to work with the way the videos are scheduled is a bit weird, because it'll probably look like I've miraculously got rid of the cold, and then I'll probably have it again a few days later, so it will look a bit weird probably, but this might be the only video you watch of mine anyway. Anyway, I was watching Jake from the Bookish Drummer channel. I was watching him do the Deja Vu tag, because I'm doing that tag in a minute. It came up and I thought, oh, I'll watch that. And I've seen lots of his videos before. I think he's a really good channel, so check out the Bookish Drummer. But it gave me an idea. I want to make a challenge for one of the months. So this year I've been taking part in some of the challenges that people have come up with. So I know the Bookish Bryants came up with a couple that I was involved with. So the February Fantasy month, February Fantasy Stories, March Mystery Madness, and Horror Mayhem. I've got involved in all of those. And June on the Range, I've been getting involved in that from my K Vaughan as well. I'm not committed to Garb August yet, because I'm not sure what I'm doing with it. But I was thinking of getting involved with the Trek book 2022 when I've got a couple of books, Star Trek books, that I found cheap that I was going to read at some point possibly. So anyway, these themed challenges I think are great to sort of get people talking about books. And because I'm a musician and a songwriter, and I'm in a band, and my day job is teaching music at a college, I thought it'd be really lovely if I did a music-themed book challenge. And once I started thinking about this, I thought the whole month could be me doing this, like lots of different things that are based around this challenge. So, it's going to be called Audible August. Wow! I feel good! So Audible August is what I'm going to be calling this thing. I don't know who's going to get involved, if anyone gets involved, but as far as any involvement from other people, what I was going to suggest is that you pick one book, if you like, at least one book or story that has a musical theme. So it could be that it's about a musician, it could be it's a biography kind of thing about a real musician, or it could be just about music. It could be a non-fiction book about music. You know, like I've got a few things I was going to show you that could be ideas, but there are loads of fictional books that are set around the music scene, and there is also some science fiction stuff around sound and music and that kind of thing. So I'll mention that, because obviously it's a big part of my channel, and I know that a lot of the channels I watch are exclusively science fiction. So there's lots of options there if you did want to get involved. But it'd be quite cool to see lots of people get involved if it did happen. If it doesn't, that's cool. I just think it'd be nice to call August Audible August, as well as you guys calling it Garb August and Star Trek's August as well, because obviously the Trek challenge starts in August as well. So Audible August. So books that relate to music or sound or musicians or anything like that. Music, songwriting, songs, composition, film scores. Yeah, anything like that. So my life revolves around music. So it's not just my day job, but it's also my band. Here's a little clip. Shameless self-promotion. So, what kind of books could you choose? So, let's have a look. There's obviously the biography type stuff. So, give you a few examples. There's billions of examples out there, but some examples that I've got. There's a great book here about Crosby, Stills and Nash. It's a funny shape actually to keep on your bookshelves, but it's a really good book about them by Dave Zimmer, and it goes through their whole career, but it's got quite a lot of text about their issues, and obviously they had a lot of issues. They kept arguing a lot, didn't they? And they're not talking at the moment either. They're just bouncing off them three. Their mate Neil. Yes, this is a really good book about Neil Young, or by Neil Young. It's quite an interesting biography, autobiography, because it's all in little chunks. So it's almost like he's just thinking up, oh yeah, and this happened, oh and that happened, which is quite a nice. It's got a nice feel to it, and you can sort of dip in and out of it. So I think that's a really good book if you get a chance to read that one. Arguably my favourite band, Complicated Game. It's a really, really good book about XTC. I don't know if I mentioned this one when I did my music books video, or I mentioned the other one, XTC Songs and Stories, but this is a really good book about XTC. Kate's there, and she's also in here. So everyone's talking about Kate Bush at the minute because of Stranger Things, which is awesome. And Under the Ivy is a really good book about her and how she grew up and how she started doing music, and her it kind of interprets some of her songs as well. Talks about how she writes her lyrics and that kind of stuff. She's a genius, so worth reading about her, I think. So there's Kate. One more that's kind of based around a more obvious music, but this isn't an artist like those are. This is a book I bought on Negro folk music, and it's like a history of the place of folk music in the black community and where it came from and what it's like, what it was like in the early days. And you know, I'm not sure if you know, but the banjo originally came from Africa, or an instrument that the banjo was based on, and it explores that kind of heritage stuff, and obviously some music that you can analyse as well. But I can't wait to get. So I haven't actually read this yet, so I can't wait to get stuck into this. So I will read this at some point. But there's also some great books that you may be tempted by that are related, but not exactly kind of an obvious choice. So this is a really good book that I've used as a textbook in my job. The producer as a composer. It's a really good book that looks at different ways that production's developed over the years and how it's become, or always was, a very creative career, very creative job. And a producer is so important in the studio and does so much for recordings. And it properly dissects songs and talks about Phil Spector's Wall of Sound and what George Martin did and all sorts of things like that. And, you know, goes right up to modern day. That's a really good book if you're curious about that. This one, I still haven't got around to it, but I bought this, so excited to read it. And this is about confidence. So I wanted to read this because I thought it might give me some extra insight into helping my students out, because that's usually their biggest barrier, confidence. The Inner Game of Music. So this is literally a book about how you can be more confident as a musician and get past those initial nerves. So, but it is based around the sort of musical performance rather than just performance in general. So it definitely goes along with this theme. And then I'm going to just show you some fiction books that you could cover in this theme. So in a really tenuous link, I'll start with a tenuous link. This is nothing to do with music, I don't think, but it's called hurdy-gurdy, which is obviously a music instrument. I think the hurdy-gurdy is a very underrated musical instrument because it's so old. But yeah, this is a book about the plague, but hurdy-gurdy. There's one thing I mentioned quite recently that I haven't read yet. Buddy Holly is alive and well in Ganymede, and this is a comedy book, comedy science fiction, and it's literally suggesting that Buddy Holly went off into space and just lived on another planet rather than died. I don't know a lot more than that. I want to go in blind when I read it because it's supposed to be really funny. So that could be an option. But it could be like The Axeman's Jazz, which is like a murder mystery kind of set in 1919 in New Orleans. As music fills the city, a serial killer strikes. Sounds awesome. I've had this for a while, actually. So that would be an awesome one to read if you're into murder mystery kind of stuff. And this one's set in the jazz world, New Orleans, 1919. And the next three, I'm going to read the backs because I think it'll say a lot more. Because if I just say what they're called, it won't be obvious what it's about. So I'm going to start these last three with a book that I've mentioned only once before, I think, as a really important book for me. Because this was bought as a present because a friend of mine said, You're going to love this, and just bought it for me randomly. I've never heard of it before. And I absolutely loved it. It's a really good book. So I'll just read you what it says on the back. It's called The Summer We All Ran Away by Cassandra Parkin. When 19-year-old Davy finds himself drunk, beaten and alone, he's rescued by the oddly assorted inhabitants of an abandoned and beautiful house in the West Country. Their only condition for letting him join them is that he asks them no questions. More than 30 years ago, in that same house, burned-out rock star Jack Laker writes a groundbreaking comeback album and abandons the girl who saved his life to embark on a doomed and passionate romance with a young actress. His attempt to escape his destructive lifestyle leads to deceit, debauchery and even murder. As Davy and his fellow housemate Pris try to uncover the secrets of the house's inhabitants, both past and present, it becomes clear that the 5 strangers have all been drawn there by the events and the music of that long ago summer. It's really, really good. It's really good. So, if that sounds interesting to you, it's written beautifully, and the characters are so well done. I need to write a proper video for this, but I might read it again first. But, yeah, if you want to read this, I thoroughly recommend it. Cassandra Parkin, The Summer We All Ran Away. Also, I don't know if you like Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote Fight Club. I'm not sure if I said it right. Chuck Palahniuk. Tell me if I've said it wrong. So he originally wrote Fight Club, but this is a book called The Invention of Sound. I'll read the back. Private detective Foster Gates is a father in search of his missing daughter, and sound engineer Mitzi harbours a dark secret that might help him solve the case. The best in Hollywood, Mitzi creates the dubbed screams used in horror films and action movies, but the screams she generates are a little too realistic. Foster soon discovers the shocking truth behind Mitzi's profession. The screams she produces are harvested from the real blood-curdling screams of people on their death throes, a technique first employed by Mitzi's father and one she finds herself compelled to honour. In pursuit of her dark art, Mitzi realises she's created the perfect scream, one that forces anyone who hears it to mirror the sound for as long as they listen, a highly contagious seismic event with the potential to bring the country to its knees. Ooh! So, that's The Invention of Sound. You might want to read that. Obviously, that's a bit more science fiction-y. Far-fetched. Incidentally, Kate did a fantastic song with the idea of sound being created in a lab by the government to kill, which is called Experiment 4. Really good song, one of her best. Only released on as a single, wasn't released on any proper album. The only album it's on is the Greatest Hits. And then one last book, which is a book I've recently discovered, and it sounds amazing. I haven't read it yet, but I think I'm going to read this while I'm doing my 30 book challenge. And it's another translated book. It's a Japanese book from Natsu Miyashita, and it's called The Forest of Woolen Steel. The Forest of Woolen Steel. It looks amazing. So I'll just read you the back and see if this is the kind of thing you'd like. What he experienced that day wasn't life-changing, it was life-making. Tamura is startled by the hypnotic sound of a piano being tuned in his school. It seeps into his soul and transports him to the forest, dark and gleaming, that surrounded his beloved mountain village. At that moment, he becomes determined to discover more. Under the tutelage of 3 master piano tuners, Tamura embarks on his training, always asking himself one unfathomable question: do I have what it takes? Set in small-town Japan, this warm and mystical story is for the lucky few who have found their calling, and for the rest of us who are still looking. It shows that the search for purpose in life is a winding path, one filled with treacherous doubts, and for those who persevere, astonishing revelations. So, it could be one of those books that stays with you. So, The Forest of Woolen Steel by Natsu Miyashita. So, bunch of options, some suggestions there. Obviously, you can read lots of non-fiction stuff about music and about artists. There's the book I haven't read yet, but I heard so much about, Daisy Jones and the Something 6. I can't remember. But obviously, that's a big one that people are talking about in a minute. But there's loads. So, yeah, Audible August. If you think it's a good idea, let me know. And it doesn't have to be a big part of your month, because you could just choose one story or one book that you want to read to take part. It'd be nice. But, yeah, see what happens. Thanks a lot. Bye.
picture of what it's like to be you. You sit up on your high chair